everybody, welcome back to the Body Mass YouTube page. My name is Virginia. For those of you guys who are new here, I'm one of the owners at Body Mass, and I've been kind of following along my competition prep journey as a former figure competitor and then bikini competitor. And then as I've transitioned into 2021, the reason why I'm taking a break from stage is because my husband, Chris, fellow co-owner of Body Mass, and I are expecting our first baby this fall. So in today's video, I wanted to talk about something that I think is very relevant as it relates to the world that I operate in, fitness, being a personal trainer, but especially in the world of working with competitive athletes, both with myself and girls that I coach to step on stage, and that's body image. Clearly, there's a lot that changes physically with your physique during pregnancy. Inevitably, you're growing a human, so there's going to be a whole lot that changes. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what my experience has been. And then at the end, for those of you guys who don't know already, I want to walk you through our gender reveal a little bit so you guys can know if we're having a boy or a girl. So to rewind everything back 15, almost 20 years ago, I grew up as a gymnast, and in the sport of gymnastics, you are continually judged on your appearance, right? It's your athletic performance, but it really is a subjective sport based off of how you look as you're going through these movements. So many of the girls that I competed with in gymnastics, similar to me, struggled with body image issues, and oftentimes that led to issues with exercising and over-exercising. That led to different issues as it relates to your relationship with food. And I specifically remember being a teenager when I was really kind of at the height of those struggles, thinking to myself, and it's so funny when I look back and think about this, but thinking, I can't eat these things now, but when I'm pregnant, the rules don't apply and you can eat whatever you want. So when I get pregnant, I'll be able to eat chocolate chip cookies or ice cream or anything like that. And clearly that's part of the disordered mentality that I had as it related to food. And I've been very fortunate to have worked past that, and that's no longer something that I deal with. So going into this pregnancy, I felt very comfortable, very at peace with my body and my physique, whether it was when I'm competition prepping or when I'm in an off season or really at any point. So I started off pregnancy in a good headspace. Right now, I'm just about 22 weeks, so a little over halfway there. You guys can't see. I'll show you a little bit. Belly's growing, but here's a picture from when I was 21 weeks pregnant. I've been doing those weekly check-ins, as you guys have seen. So at 22 weeks, a little over halfway there, I've put on, I think 15 or 16 pounds. And honestly, I thought that there would be a little bit of this fear and apprehension as it came to gaining inevitable weight when you're pregnant. I feel very fortunate in that I have no negative feelings towards the fact that I'm obviously gaining weight and my body's changing. It's fascinating to watch, mostly because I'm so used to being in control of how my body's changing. If I want to build muscle in a certain area, I do XYZ to build muscle in a certain area. If I want to lose fat in a certain area, I do XYZ to try to lose fat in that area. So everything becomes very orderly and very calculated with what I'm doing. And that's the nature of the sport I've been competing in for almost 10 years. It's a physique-based sport. So it's kind of applying that science side to create the art, your physique. So everything I've done has been very, very controlled. That tells you a little bit about me. But obviously with pregnancy, it's beyond my control, right? My body is changing. My body is serving the purpose of growing another human. So it's just very different. So it's fascinating to wake up every morning and just kind of look in the mirror and see how my body has changed to feel, as I said in the last video, kind of the structure and the ligaments, especially in my hips, change. But it's really been a fascinating process, and it's been a very good learning experience for me with my career and my hobbies and my interest in the human body. The personal struggles I've faced as it relates to body image is interesting because it's not what somebody might typically think. It's not the struggles that I feel like I'm facing, and I use the term struggles vaguely. I'm not, I feel very fortunate in that I'm very confident in how I'm feeling. But when I look in the mirror, I'm growing a baby. My belly is gonna get bigger. My butt and thighs are gonna get bigger. My body is changing its shape, which again is part of the process. And I don't have any issues with that whatsoever. What's been a struggle for me is knowing and understanding and feeling that the structure of my body is changing. So when I say that, what I mean is like, I know my hip structure is changing. I have a very, very, very narrow hips. Like I have no hips whatsoever. Obviously not childbearing hips. And so for the sport, when I was competing in figure and you want a V taper, that worked in my favor. Having a narrow waist, narrow hips. In bikini, having a narrow hip structure works. Obviously I need to build the size of my glutes, but you don't want to have wide bone structure in the sport. So feeling that shift and change and not knowing what that will look like afterwards. I plan on still competing after I have my baby, but not knowing kind of what does the change that I'm feeling in my hip structure mean when I am back to building muscle and when I'm back to leaning out and when I step on stage. Like, is that gonna work as a disadvantage to me because my hips had to change their shape to be pregnant, give birth, and then what is that gonna be on stage? Also, what my midsection is going to look like. And what I mean by that is not about how much fat it's going to have, but what does the physical change in the musculature and in the structure of your muscles of your abs mean when you, again, are losing fat and when you're leaning out on stage? Is that going to change what my competitive abilities are on stage? And this is all trivial stuff. Competing is just optional. That's something that I choose to do, but it's something that's really valuable and important to me. And I want to be able to do it as well as possible. And so those are just the things I think about. Like, as I feel, those of you guys who've been pregnant before know what this feels like, but you can literally feel your muscle moving. You can feel the abdomen's like spreading apart to create room to grow a human. And it's less about like the physical, like what does that look like in terms of having a big belly, but what does that mean in terms of changing the structure of the muscle, changing the structure of the bone, and then once I am ready to compete again, stepping on stage, kind of what's underneath postpartum. So that's the big struggle that I'm facing right now when it comes to body image. Isn't so much what I look like or how I feel when I'm pregnant. I feel great. I'm proud of how I look, doing something that is insane of growing a human. But what is it gonna be afterwards, and what is my physique gonna look like? I'm very much somebody that likes to know the end result. Maybe this is a fault of mine. Likes to know the end result and then can take the steps to get there. But if I don't know what that end result is, I'm unsure of those steps to take. And it's really only been in the last couple of days that I've started to really feel a lot of movement and change through the muscle in my abs, and I still have at least 18 weeks left, so I still have a lot more movement to go, as well as through my hips and through kind of my legs and my butt. So yeah, it's just kind of coming to terms with knowing that things are gonna change, and I have to be patient and understand that until I have this baby and until I'm ready to start competing again, I'm not gonna know. I don't like to get too overkill into, men are at such an advantage and women are at such a disadvantage because of what they go through with their bodies. I really do think it's an incredible process, but it is challenging, like I mentioned in my previous video. The thing that I have a lot of passion for, which is fitness, which is competing, which is stepping on stage, becomes very limited during pregnancy because of the physical limitations. So clearly I'm not competing when I'm pregnant, obviously. So I have to take time off during the pregnancy. I have to take time off postpartum. And there are plenty of women who get on stage after they have kids. I know it's doable. But I do have to put that on pause. I also am a trainer all day long, so I'm getting on the ground and I'm demonstrating exercises. I'm, lifting up weights to load up bars for people. I'm spotting people. I'm demonstrating different exercises, and I can still do a lot of it right now, but I still have several months left. So it's tough knowing that even in my work and even in my job, I feel limited. As a business owner, obviously there's a lot of that admin side stuff that I do that isn't restricted based off of where I'm at physically. But that's another thing that's really hard for me right now, and I think more mentally is going to be harder as I move further along in the pregnancy, is I'm not able to do my job to what I feel is my full capacity because I'm physically limited in what I can do. Even now, when I get down on the ground to demonstrate something and stand back up, it's tough. It's not easy. I kind of have to lean on my leg and stand up. And the good news is at Body Mass, everybody is understanding. Everybody knows. Nobody is going to give me a hard time, but it's more of a personal struggle that I feel that is I can't do the requirements necessary of my job. I can't do the requirements necessary of my hobby. Whereas, Chris, my husband, he doesn't compete, but if he competed, he could be stepping on stage the day I'm giving birth or the day after a baby is born, and it doesn't affect how his ability is to go through the process. Me being pregnant and us, getting ready to have a baby doesn't affect his ability to train groups, to teach clients, to demonstrate things, to load weights, to do kind of the daily tasks of his job. So again, it's just adapting to those changes and giving myself grace and understanding with it. And so thank all of you for being able to understand along the process as well. But now this is the most exciting part is, are we having a boy or a girl? So I've not kept it a secret. I turned 35 in a few weeks. So actually less than a few weeks, not much longer left. So because I am at a higher risk because I'm 35 during my pregnancy and I'm quote unquote geriatric, I did a lot of blood tests earlier on during my pregnancy. Things like genetic carrier screening, but I also did the blood test that gives you information on chromosomal abnormalities, but tells you information about the sex of the baby. So we did that test and got the results back a few weeks before we went to the Outer Banks with our family. And on our trip to the Outer Banks with our family, that's when we kind of told everybody, it was my mom's whole side of the family. So literally nobody knew except Chris. But my sisters, their significant others, my parents, my grandmother, my aunts, uncles, cousins' kids, nobody knew that we were expecting. So here's a little video of surprising everybody. First off, with the news that we were pregnant.
That was my first question. Just one. Are you having it this weekend? Yeah, I don't think that's how it works now.
It was so fun to be able to share that with family. My mom started crying, my sister started crying, my aunt started crying, my cousin started crying. So it was really exciting for family to be around and share that really special moment. And then we decided, since we're all going to be together for a week, that we did want to do a little bit of a gender reveal for our immediate family. So going into it, a lot of people thought that this was funny. I wanted a surprise. I did not want to know ahead of time. I wanted, whatever we did for the gender reveal to be the surprise. Chris is not a surprise person. So Chris actually got the results from the test, and he knew what the sex of the baby was for probably about a week or 10 days before we went to Outer Banks and I knew what it was. And I literally told him, I was like, I will kill you if you tell me what it is. So he was very good at keeping it under wraps. He had told a few people at the gym. And the whole time I was dead set on the fact that it was a boy. And Chris thought it was a girl, even before he knew the results. So I thought it was a boy, Chris thought it was a girl, because I have 3 nephews. Chris is one of 3 boys. He has a lot of male cousins. It just felt like we're like constantly surrounded by boys. So that's what I thought with it being a boy. Chris thought it was a girl. I don't know. He just thought it was a girl, maybe to think the opposite of what I thought. So going into the gender reveal, I was pretty set on it being a boy, but then during the lead up time, and Chris kind of bought the confetti cannons, he said a few things that made me maybe question that a little bit. So anyways, we went and got, well, Chris ordered off Amazon those like confetti cannons, and we gave them to all my nephews and my cousins' kids to launch off. And then we had a big box of balloons. So you guys can see exactly what we're having. So I was really shocked to find out she's a girl. And then we, at our 20-week ultrasound, they confirmed that she is in fact a girl, which is really, really exciting. But again, mentally, I had so prepared that because I've been surrounded by so many boys and Chris's family has a lot of boys, that it was gonna be a boy. I'd already kind of had boys' names picked out in my head. And so for girls, it's way tougher. I have no clue about names. It's probably gonna be one of those things that she's born at the hospital and they're like, we got to fill out this birth certificate, give us a name. And I'm like, and like deciding last minute. And for my parents, it's going to be their first granddaughter. For Chris's parents, it's their first granddaughter. So, you know, she's definitely is going to be spoiled. But I couldn't be more excited about it. I feel really fortunate, again, that I don't struggle a lot with body image in terms of how my physique is changing right now, and it's just more the uncertainty of afterwards, what's gonna happen, and with my hobby of competing. But it's a great process. I like doing these videos. I hope you guys find them at least interesting or entertaining. I wanna share a little bit more about things like what I'm eating on a daily basis, a little bit more about my training, especially as I get further along and you know, my belly becomes more of a physical restriction. But if you guys like this, go ahead, hit the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and leave any comments down below of anything you want to see. The more you guys interact with this, the better. But I'll see you guys back in the next video, all right? Bye.